My name is Dr. David Greenspan. I come from a chiropractic family. My father, brother, and sister are all chiropractors and have all practiced at one time or another here in the Asheville area. So there's three main reasons why we're here. We're going to give you some tools to help you regain your optimum health quickly. We're going to instruct you on how to stay healthy for a long time. And then we're also going to talk about how to make the world a better place. So, Gretchen, you've been to a chiropractor. What's chiropractic about? What are we doing here?
Adjusting people to maintain maximum health.
Beautiful. That's a wonderful way to put it. The American Chiropractic Association defines chiropractic as focusing on disorders of the musculoskeletal system, which are the muscles and bones, and the nervous system, and the effects of these disorders on general health. So, what does health mean? Chrissy, what's health all about? Feeling good. You know, I'm so glad you said that because most people say health is about feeling good, right? It's like if we don't have symptoms, if I'm not coughing, sneezing, if I don't have a headache, then I must be pretty healthy. What's the number one killer of Americans today and has been for the last 30 to 50 years?
Heart attack.
Heart disease in general, right? Do you know that 2/3 of the people who die from heart disease, their first symptom is their last? And it's in the form of a myocardial infarction or a heart attack. So pain is another symptom, and pain really has nothing to do with your overall health. Pain is an alarm. The way I think about pain is it's your body's warning system. Health is a state of optimal physical, mental, and social well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmities. Another way that Webster's defines it as a state of wholeness to which all of the organs are functioning at 100%. Do you guys think the United States is one of the healthiest nations? No. Okay. And you'd be absolutely right. The World Health Organization ranked the U.S. 15 out of 25 industrialized nations, and those are factors like infant mortality, life expectancy. So a lot of us know that they're doing it better in Japan and Holland, and there are better countries for health. But when we take a look at that statistic together with this one, where Americans make up 4% of the world's population, and we spend 50% of the world's monies spent on health care, if we were getting a good value for our health care dollar, where should we be? Way at the top, absolutely. And one of the reasons why our health outcomes are not what they should be is the medical community really focuses on the elimination, the treatment, and the prevention of disease, right? Mm-hmm. And they can be very good at that, but what they're not so good at, unfortunately, is maintaining health and wellness. Do you know that 75% of the money the average American spends on health care is expended in the last 3 months of life? What do you think your quality of life is during your last 3 months? It's not very good for most folks. So my feeling is it makes sense to utilize some of our energy and resources when we have something to maintain and build on to live the best life for the longest number of years. So we should be very healthy, but we're not. So we're going to switch gears and talk about the beginning of life and the magic of life. So when the sperm and egg come together, we start to have cell division. And at this stage, every cell is exactly like every other cell. And then one of the miracles of life begins to happen. We have cell differentiation. And so they start to split off and change and form different organ systems. And the first organ system to form begins as the notochord and develops into the brain and spinal cord, which is what we call the central nervous system. The reason why the central nervous system develops first is because it is the general manager. It is the conductor of the symphony. It has the blueprint within it for the development of the entire rest of the embryo, and it controls us in our whole lives. This doesn't stop when we're born, but the central nervous system communicates with every cell, muscle, tissue, and organ throughout our lives via the peripheral nervous system. And every one of those peripheral nerves originates from in between two vertebrae as a spinal nerve. So, what are the main reasons why people come in to see me in my office? Back pain, number one, okay? Low back pain, it's debilitating. More research has been done about the effectiveness of chiropractic and low back pain than anything else. Alice, if I may ask, what brought you in my office?
Neck pain.
Crippling neck pain, this is number two. Anybody have any idea of what the third one might be? Oh, sometimes I get these horrible headaches. So those are the big three. How many people come in to see me because their allergies are bothering them? Not many, but plenty of people with pain in their neck see improvements in their allergic symptoms when they're under care. And why is that? Well, because the nerves that leave the upper part of your neck, so they go to innervate the sinuses, the ears, and your throat. So how many people come to see me because their digestion isn't functioning that well? I'm not the first person they think of, right? They go to the GI doc or their GP. But if we come back here and we look at people who experience lower back pain, those organs that are supplied are the colon, the bladder, the kidneys, the liver. And so these organs are vital to digestion. So many people that come to see me for lower back pain see improvement in their digestive function. And that is how chiropractic goes beyond pain relief into health optimization. So your body is always trying to maintain balance with whatever we're throwing at it and maintaining a state of ease. The body's innate intelligence is allowed to express itself into the organs, glands, and body tissues. Health is really an inside job. One thing I promise you is that they will never sell health in a purple pill. It is not how your body works, okay? But sometimes the body, we throw too much at it. There's too much stress. We're not giving it proper nutrition. We're not getting enough movement in our lives. We're not sleeping adequately. And sometimes there's a disruption in the connection between the mind and the body. And that can occur as a misaligned bone putting pressure on a nerve. And we call that a subluxation. And when a subluxation exists in your body long enough, it can manifest as dis-ease because your body's balance is thrown off and it can't maintain proper function. And you allow that to be there long enough and suddenly you have a disease. And it's something you can put a label on and you can medicate. And heaven forbid, sometimes you can cut it out, right? But we were designed to live with all of our organs. The nervous system is the connection between your mind and your body. This is what we want to preserve and optimize. We're going to switch gears and talk about the curves and the importance of that in your spine. So initially when we're in the womb, everybody starts with a single C-shaped curve. The child begins to elevate its head. We develop our cervical or neck curve. It is not until that child is 1 year of age that the curves in the spine have developed to allow upright, stable walking. And that's why kids begin to walk about 1 year. Curves in our spine are important because of their shock absorbing capacity. It allows motion and flexibility to occur. Support structures attached to your spine. Hey, Zoe, what do you think's your most important part attached to your spine? What if I do like this? Your head. You're so good. Thank you. Yeah. And we're going to talk about why this is so important. And then it allows for proper posture. So these last two elements we'll talk more about momentarily. So a properly curved spine acts as a spring or shock absorber as we move throughout our daily lives. Now, when we lose some of those curves, which can happen through trauma, it can happen through postural habit, what we see is loss of that natural motion, and we can get a brittle or a static spine. So in between each two vertebrae, we have one of these. What do we call these, guys? Discs. Thank you so much, Gretchen. Come on. All right. So we have these discs. Now, the interesting thing about these discs is they are avascular. They don't have arteries bringing nutrients to them or veins carrying waste away. So what they rely upon is the normal, natural pumping motion as we go throughout our everyday lives. Now, when we get one of those subluxations, one of those misalignments, what happens is we lose that normal motion and the discs can get irritated. Now, you can have a swollen disc, you can have a bulging disc, you can have a herniated disc, and then you can have a ruptured disc. And until you rupture a disc, there is nowhere that's better for the restoration of the motion and the healing of the discs in a chiropractic office. So the first sheet of your exercise packet has a lot of good information in it. I'm going to draw your attention to number 5. It says, if you experience any pain while performing your exercises, go only as far as you can go without creating pain. I want to make an addition to this that if you're experiencing pain doing your exercises, I want you to talk to me about it. Okay? Your spine may not be rehabilitated to where it's constructive for you to do them. There's a lot of other good information on this first sheet. I encourage you to read that at home. Top right-hand corner of your exercise packet is how all of us should be getting into and out of bed morning and evening. So when you're sitting on the edge of the bed, I'm going to ask you to roll over onto your side. Only when you're completely laid down do you roll onto your back. Likewise, if you're lying on your back and you want to get out of bed, you want to roll completely over onto your side, bend your hips and knees to 90 degrees, and use your lower legs as a lever to help bring yourself up into a vertical position. What we want to avoid is rotation between the shoulders and the pelvis in that early morning. Bottom left-hand corner is your rescue position. This is lying on your back with your knees elevated and supported. This takes the most pressure off your lumbar discs as possible. Now, if you had shooting, stabbing, knifing lower back pain, and you were going to use a nice warm heating pad, or you were going to use ice, which do you think I would recommend?
Ice.
Thank you so much. You know all
Yeah.
about this, don't you, Al? So when you're thinking about using ice or heat, I want you to hear in your mind, heat feels good, ice does good. 95% of inflammation in the human body is caused, 95% of pain is caused by inflammation. Inflammation is swelling. Swelling is an accumulation of fluid. What ice does is it compresses and congeals the tissues and pushes excess fluid out of that area, reducing inflammation. Anything above a 5, ice only. Between a 3 and 5, you can use ice and heat alternating. Personally, I prefer you to finish with ice. Below 3 is achy, stiff. This is appropriate use for heat. Okay? On the back side, there's some nice ergonomic do's and don'ts, but the red sheet is the meat and potatoes of your exercise packet. So the most common marks you will see are check marks. Mindy, what do you think we want to do with the checked exercise? Do them. That's right. Those are the ones I'm recommending for you. Does anybody have a star like this, dear part? Okay. So when I was reviewing your x-rays and your exams, the starred exercises are the ones that are going to be most helpful at rehabilitating the curve in your neck or back. Does anybody have a 2? Okay. So a 2 exercise, these are strengthening exercises. So you're going to do strengthening exercises only when that area is like below a 3 in terms of pain, okay? So you can't do lumbar or shoulder strengthening until the pain is gone. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any other marks that they have a question about on their exercises? Okay, so these 3 columns of exercises, I want you to pick a time in the morning or evening to do those. Here is why. Most people like to do these in bed. If you prefer a more firm surface and you want to get on the floor, knock yourself out. But it's also easier to create a habit when you do it first thing in the morning or last thing before going to bed. I'm going to ask you to do each exercise 5 times. I want you to start off doing it every day. I'm not saying you're going to have to do it every day for the rest of your life, but initially when we're getting out of the pain phase, I'm seeing you more frequently, I would ask for you to do these daily. Now, the great thing about this last column is you can do it all day long. These are your cervical range of motion exercises. The majority of my patients have these marked. I'm going to demonstrate them for you. Cervical flexion, extension, lateral flexion to the right, lateral flexion to the left, rotation to the right, rotation to the left. Good job, Zoe. So notice what I didn't do. I didn't do this, right? You see people stretching like this, right? And you may even hear it because when people do a compound stretch, what's likely to happen? Right? So if this is a habit for you, or heaven forbid, you kind of give it one of these every once in a while, or you grab onto the chair and give it one of those. If you've got a $20 copay, I want you just to imagine little eagle wings on your $20 bill, because what happens is it creates instability and it will be counterproductive to our work in here. So if that is habitual for you, come talk to me about it. The best thing is to stop cold turkey. The adjustments that I'm doing are going to correct the need for self-manipulation. And it's just a matter of breaking the habit. Does anybody have any questions whatsoever about the exercises? Yes?
So if they're not checked, then that's not part of what you're recommending.
That's not what I'm asking you to do. If you want to experiment, if you want to ask me questions about any of the other ones, it is absolutely fine. If there is an exercise that is not good for you on there, I put a big X on it. Does anybody have an X on theirs? Yeah, okay. So we didn't go over those marks. So if you have an X on your exercise packet, not only do I want you not to do that exercise, so if I believe, Mindy, one of yours is kind of like this, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. So a common time that you put your back into extension is what that's called, is when you're reaching up in your kitchen cabinets. Look at my low back right here.
Mhm.
Anytime I go up on my toes. So if that kind of is like, ooh, I do that, then a step stool, reorganizing your kitchen. So anything of weight is between your shoulders and your knees, doing what you can in that manner. All right, does anybody else have? Yes, please.
On the star one right
Yes.
now, can you show?
Absolutely. This is a great question, okay? So the starred exercise is for resisted extension. So you can do it with one hand like this. Our goal is to build the muscles in the back of your neck. You can do it with two hands like this. You want to know when I do this one the most? Is when I'm driving in my car and I stop at a stoplight, I take my head and I forcibly push it into my headrest, right? Because my hand doesn't have to be back there because my headrest gives it resistance.
So you're not trying to stop. Well, you're trying to stop it, right?
You're providing resistance.
Okay.
So this is an isometric exercise, meaning that your head actually doesn't move. Okay, it's staying in place. Isometric exercises under MRIs have been shown to increase the girth, the width of the muscles more than anything else. It's why planking is so wonderful for lower back stability. But I digress. Okay, the spine is a beautiful structure, 24 interconnected segments, each vertebra separated by a disc which guards the nerve. Three functions of the spine are to bear weight, allow movement, and to protect the nervous system. The nervous system is the only organ system surrounded by bone, and it's because of its vital importance. We said we would come back, Zoe, to how important your head is, right? And this is because for every inch that your head sits in front of your shoulders, it increases the relative weight of your head by 100%. So, where are the muscles that are responsible for holding up your head, do you think? That's right, Mindy. They're in the back of your neck and across the top of your shoulders. Does anybody ever have tension in that area? Everybody, okay? As I mentioned before, forward head carriage, it is the biggest postural issue we have currently. And why do you think that might be? Oh, wait, let me check my cell phone.
Mm-hmm. I guarantee you that's probably 80%.
It's a big, it's not all of it, but it's big right now. Now, kids, we're in school, right? We're sitting at our desks. So anything you can do to keep this happening is time well spent. One of the things I love to tell people is it's a beautiful world out there. Make sure you see it. Don't walk around like this, you know? And it's also good for your body. Now, as the head goes, the body cannot help but follow. So as we have good erect posture, head over my shoulders, I begin to lose that with anterior head carriage. I get rounding of my shoulders, increased kyphosis or rounding of my back. I lose the lumbar curve, and it's time for the game. Right? You look at any vital person in their 80s, and you're going to see someone fairly upright. I can't stress it enough. Your grandma was right. Yeah, don't slump, right? So this is what we're working against, folks. Steady, progressive, degenerative change. You know, Mother Nature can create a cervical fusion just like the surgeon can. She just needs 30 or 40 years of unobstructed progress to work on it. We don't want to allow that to happen. This is what we're working against. It's called a vertebral subluxation. Consists of a misaligned vertebra putting pressure on a nerve, creating irritation and deformation of a disc. This is a great statistic. The weight of a dime on one of those nerve roots reduces the transmission of energy and information by 60%. It doesn't mean that you can't have more nerve compression than that, but that small amount of pressure can create really drastic problems. So how do we get these things? Doc, you circled my sheet the first day at the report of findings. I know where mine are, but I don't want to get any more. So how do I prevent that? Well, trauma makes sense, right? Slips, falls, motor vehicle accidents. We don't think about the birth process. You know, anybody that has had a baby or witnessed a live birth, they're not always the most gentle, right? And the obstetrician, what's the first thing most of the time that they get to grab onto? The head, right? And what's coming next? It's the shoulders. And so we got to kind of rotate that head and help that baby out into the world. It's not the OB's fault. It's nature, right? But is it possible for little babies to have subluxations? Is it possible for them to experience colic, lowered immune system function, or difficult with bowel movements? You know, the wonderful thing about caring for children is they don't have the 20, 30, 40 years of accumulated trauma and neglect. They respond really quickly. Emotional stress, we know stress is responsible for 50% of all doctor's visits and 50% of all disease processes. So absolutely tension in the muscles, especially right here, those muscles are attached to vertebra. You get a spasm created by stress, pulls the vertebra out, subluxation. Toxicity. How do most of us get exposed to the toxicity that goes in our bodies? Yeah, that's exactly what I do, Gretchen. In the pie hole, right? So it's the foods we eat, the beverages we consume, the medications we consume. All of that has to be detoxified and processed by the kidney and liver. All right, if this is you, how do you know you have a problem? Well, you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, the home shopping network's on, and you feel like someone took a baseball bat to the side of your neck. Now, if you're coming in to see me for neck pain, and this is you 3 nights a week, are you going to get better when you first start coming to see me? You are, okay? But everyone's care plan, like how you get adjusted, is different. But the consistent thing is you see me more frequently at the beginning and we start spacing your visits out. So initially, if you're coming to see me 3 days a week, it almost doesn't matter what you're doing because I'm seeing you frequently enough, we're building on it. So we're taking 2 steps forward. Now, once I start seeing you once a week and once every 2 weeks, what happens is enough time passes where you come back and you're re-irritated. We take a step back. Then we adjust you, we take 2 steps forward. And then enough time passes and you take another step back. We're still better than we were when we started, but we're not where we could be. So as we go throughout your care, you will hear me talk to you about habits, lifestyle issues that are the lowest hanging fruit, the stuff that's going to take you the least effort to change and create the biggest outcomes in your health and wellness. What's the cardinal rule of lifting?
Lift with your legs.
Yeah, bend your knees, lift with your legs, not with your back. So I'm going to bend down here. I'm going to pick up this 80-pound, thank you, Gretchen, 80-pound bag of cement. It makes no sense to do this, right? Because now I'm bending my back. I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to stand up. Now, I want to put it in the trunk of my car. What's the next thing we want to avoid? Bending and twisting, okay? So what I want to do is I want to pivot my feet, and then I want to take a knee. I want to set it down nice and even like that. So the three most dangerous areas around the house: changing the bed linens, vacuuming, sweeping. And we want to, just like when we're getting out of bed, we want to try and keep a plane between our shoulders and our pelvis. If we're vacuuming, we don't want to do this, but we want to use our lower body, keeping our upper body neutral.
What about sweeping?
Sweeping.
Because I have to sweep and it
Yeah,
hurts my back.
and it bothers your back. So if you're...
I think I'm like this.
Yeah, so the difference is, and string trimming is another one that's brutal. So let's say we're just going to try and kind of move with our lower body a little bit more and make broader strokes like that. Same thing with string trimming. I tell people to pivot. Boop. You know, and here you can see my pelvis and my shoulders are maintaining a plane. And we're pivoting, and then you kind of go the other way. Good question, though. Everybody thinks about chiropractors in the spine, and I want to remind you that there's 208 bones in the body, and there's joints between almost every two of them. So if you have a challenge in your shoulder, elbow, wrist, hip, knee, or ankle, and you're not talking to me about it and we're not working on it, let's start, okay? Folks, we're going to wrap it up tonight with the 4 chiropractic principles. The first one is that you were born with a dynamic health potential. You were designed to be healthy and functional, and good health is your birthright. And number 2 is your nervous system controls your health potential. Nerves direct repair and defense of the body and control every aspect of your health. Number 3, any pressure on your nerves reduces the function of your nervous system and your health potential. We call this a brownout. It makes you less of a man or a woman than you were designed to be. This is why I love what I do. Take the pressure off the nerve and watch the body heal itself. The power to be healthy, it's already there. Day in and day out, I get to see miraculous changes in my patients. And I miss being here when I'm on vacation because I get so much good reinforcement for what I do in my office. But I never confuse myself with creating those changes. The miracle is really the healing potential within the human body. My job is to take the pressure off the nervous system and release that power. We call it turning on the power. Maybe give you some advice, some direction so that we don't recreate those problems. So we talked about the potential to make the world a better place. They did a study where they utilized chiropractic wellness patients, people that came to see chiropractors on a regular basis, versus people who used conventional medicine. They found that chiropractic wellness patients had 60% fewer hospital admissions, 59% less days hospitalized, 62% less outpatient surgeries, and 85% less pharmaceutical costs. In 2011, Americans spent $325 billion on pharmaceuticals. So, when we're talking about making the world a better place, we're talking about fixing a broken healthcare system. the inclusion of complementary and alternative medicine in your healthcare box as a first response rather than a last resort, it is a solution that can be true for all of us. Folks, I really appreciate everybody's time and attention. Does anybody have any questions whatsoever about anything I covered tonight? Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Zoe, you were outstanding tonight. Give me 5, kiddo.